Some encouraging news about their COVID antiviral pill. The company reporting today this oral COVID treatment reduced the risk of hospitalization or death by 89% when given to non-hospitalized high-risk patients within 3 days of symptoms. CEO Albert Bourla telling CNBC this morning they'll file for an emergency use authorization as soon as possible. Pfizer up almost 7%, Moderna down almost 25% today. Meg Terrell is here with all the details. Meg, I don't want to say this came out of nowhere, but it feels a little bit like that.
Yeah, Kelly, they've been working on this since the very beginning. Pfizer started work looking for antiviral drugs when this pandemic hit. And of course, we've all been focused on the vaccines and the incredible speed with which they developed those. But this is actually incredibly fast for antiviral drug development as well, even though it's coming about a year after the vaccines. If you look at the timeline, starting in March 2020, they really began that surge. They sorted through lots of compounds, and we'll hear from Albert Bourla on how they did this in just a sec. But really starting that phase 1 in March of this year, and now we're getting this incredible efficacy result today. Albert Bourla joined us on Squawk Box this morning and talked about the speed with which they did this. Here's what he said.
We started the program March 20th, and within 4 months, I repeat, not 4 years, 4 months until July 20th, we have synthesized and in vitro tested 600 molecules of protease inhibitors, 600. And then on July 20th, we've chosen this one. And then in 12 months, we were able to bring the results. So it's amazing in 16 months, actually. It is amazing how fast we were able to do it.
And of course, the main question now is, can they ramp up supply? They were doing that at risk as they were developing the drug. They say as of now, they expect to have 180,000 courses of treatment by the end of this year, 50 million next year, and perhaps even more than that, as this result was so much more positive than they expected. They may even ramp that up further. Bourla telling us they're in discussions with at least 90 governments around the world right now for supply agreements. Look at the stock reaction. Pfizer up 7% there. Merck, of course, which has its own drug, down almost 10%. Regeneron, which makes a monoclonal antibody drug for COVID, also down 6%, and Moderna down almost 25% on this, as folks are looking at this as perhaps maybe people taking fewer boosters or vaccines in the future. Kelly, back to you.
Yeah, and Moderna shares were at almost $350 on Tuesday, and they're at $217 today. So just an incredible turn of events. Now, it would be one thing for us to say, okay, now wait, these are only for high-risk patients. It's a different category than maybe the entire population. But at the same time, the market is running with this, Meg, as if to kind of quote Scott Gottlieb this morning, the pandemic is over.
Well, it really is the last tool that we were looking for on top of the vaccines, the monoclonal antibodies. We have drugs for severe patients in the hospital like dexamethasone, but we didn't have that oral antiviral drug that people can take at home at the first signs of getting COVID. Now, there's the Merck drug as well, but this one has 89% efficacy. And so it's really another tool that will be incredibly helpful with this pandemic.
Will we get to a point where there's an oral drug you can take if you're not high risk? So if you're just, maybe not Aaron Rodgers, but you know what I'm saying? If there's something that the ordinary person can take that becomes a real substitute, let's say, for the vaccine.
Well, I think public health experts would break out in shingles about the idea that it would be a substitute for the vaccine. But in terms of being a treatment for somebody, regardless of whether they're high risk or not, Pfizer's running that trial, and we should see the results maybe in the next 6 months or so. And so we'll see, does this have such a benefit for non-high risk folks as well? One would expect if it, affects the viral load, it would be pretty helpful.
Yeah, and by the way, the shingles vaccine was in short supply this year because of all the rest of this. Just an interesting sight. I know more people now who have had shingles than ever before. Meg, thanks so much for bringing us up to speed on all the latest on these developments. Our Meg Terrell. Still ahead, according to the latest jobs data, the Great Resignation appears to be here to stay. What does it mean for the Fed? We will dive into the jobs numbers next.